Two gunmen step out on London Road, December 13, 2019. In seconds, Hard Living's boss Rashied Staggie is dead, riddled with bullets in broad daylight. 5 years later, 28's leader Ralph Stanfield faces trial for ordering the hit. But in Cape Town's underworld, the obvious answer is rarely the right one. Now, Rashied Staggie was 58 years old, sitting in his Toyota Corolla outside his Salt River home that Friday morning. The same London road where vigilantes had burned his twin brother Rashied alive in 1996. Maybe he thought about that sometimes. Maybe not. What matters is what happened at that intersection when the traffic lights turned red. Two men emerged from a vehicle, faces hidden behind balaclavas. One approached from the front, the other from the driver's side. Staggie saw them coming. According to court documents, he tried to accelerate, but traffic boxed him in. His car bumped into the vehicle ahead. Then came the bullets. The shooters opened fire at close range, spraying the Toyota with rounds. Witnesses would later describe the car as riddled with bullets. The precision suggested this wasn't random. This was an execution. The gunmen walked back to their vehicle and disappeared into Cape Town traffic. No panic, no rush, just business. When Staggie's daughter Ingrid Carolus heard the shots, she ran from the house. But her father was already gone. The driver of the car he'd bumped fled the scene, leaving Staggie slumped over the steering wheel. Groot Schuur Hospital confirmed him dead on arrival. Now here's what makes investigators suspicious. The night before Staggie died, another Hard Living's figure was killed. They called him Bally Tips, shot dead in Mitchell's Plain just hours before Staggie's murder. Two Hard Living's leaders dead within 24 hours. That's not coincidence in the Cape Flats. That's coordination. Ralph Stanfield disappeared immediately after Staggie's death. According to intelligence reports cited in court filings, Stanfield fled overseas with his family. The anti-gang unit noticed. They started tracking passports. They started building a case. But it would take 5 years before they'd make their move. The crime scene itself told a story of planning. Salt River isn't some isolated location. It's a busy suburb with regular traffic. To execute someone there in daylight required timing, reconnaissance, escape routes. The shooters knew exactly when Staggie would be vulnerable. They knew the traffic patterns. They knew how to vanish afterward. Ralph Stanfield wasn't supposed to be a gang boss. His rise came after his uncle Colin Stanfield died in 2004. Colin had run the 28th Street Gang for years. When he died, Ralph inherited more than family grief. He inherited an empire. The 28s operate according to prison gang hierarchy. Court papers describe Stanfield's network as the Firm Gang, operating in accordance with 28's ranking. Now that's an old term from the 1990s that experts say is outdated, but prosecutors use it to describe Stanfield's operation. His territory stretched from Belhar to Kraaifontein, controlling drug routes worth millions in cocaine, mandrax, and abalone trade. According to the state's case, Stanfield didn't pull triggers himself. He allegedly procured the services of others. The indictment names Jonathan Cloete as the driver, Shaquille Pelston and Sherazat Essop as the shooters. This compartmentalized structure meant Stanfield could order hits while maintaining distance. The July 2025 indictment lists 15 co-defendants across 41 counts. Stanfield's wife, Nicole Johnson, faces charges as an accomplice. During bail hearings, the judge described her and associates as being deceptive and prone to taking the law into their own hands. The prosecution painted a picture of an organized network, not random criminals. But Stanfield presents himself differently. Those who know him describe a legitimate businessman who got caught up in gang allegations. His defense will likely argue he's being scapegoated for Cape Town's gang problem, that the state needs a high-profile conviction. That circumstantial evidence isn't proof. The prosecution's challenge is connecting Stanfield directly to the triggermen. They claim he conspired with Cloete, who then drove Pelston and Essop to execute Staggie. But conspiracy cases require more than proximity. They need proof of agreement, proof of planning, proof of intent. What makes Stanfield particularly interesting is his age and approach. Unlike older gang bosses who rose through street violence, Stanfield represents a newer breed, educated, business-minded, using corporate structures to hide criminal enterprises. He understood modern surveillance, digital trails, international banking. That sophistication made him dangerous, but also traceable. The bail proceedings revealed additional details about the state's view of Stanfield. Prosecutors argued he posed a flight risk, citing his immediate departure after Staggie's murder. They claimed he had resources and connections to disappear again. The court agreed, denying bail to both Stanfield and Johnson. Now, building a case against someone who's fled the country isn't simple. Investigators couldn't interview Stanfield. They couldn't search his property immediately. So they followed digital breadcrumbs. Phone records became crucial. Prosecutors claim they show communication patterns between Stanfield, Cloete, and the alleged shooters around the time of the murder. Financial records allegedly reveal money flowing from Stanfield's accounts to the hitmen. These transactions form what the state calls evidence of procurement. The passport tracking proved particularly useful. When Stanfield tried to return to South Africa, authorities had flagged his documents. Cape Argus reporting indicates this surveillance led to his arrest when he attempted re-entry. They'd been waiting. But digital evidence has limitations. Phone records show calls were made, not what was said. Financial transfers could have legitimate explanations. The prosecution needs to prove these connections relate specifically to murder conspiracy, not general criminal association. The 41-count indictment suggests investigators found patterns. They've linked Stanfield to multiple killings beyond Staggie. William "Red" Stevens, a 27's boss, was murdered in Kraaifontein in February 2021. City official Wendy Kloppers was killed in Delft in February 2023. The state claims these form a pattern of hired assassination. Yet after 5 years of investigation, there's still no direct evidence. No recording of Stanfield ordering the hit. No confession from the shooters naming him. No witness who heard him planning Staggie's death. The case rests entirely on circumstantial evidence and inference. What investigators do have is methodology. They've documented how modern gang leaders operate through intermediaries, how they use legitimate businesses to move money, how they maintain plausible deniability while orchestrating violence. Whether this general knowledge proves Stanfield's specific guilt remains the question. The Prevention of Organized Crime Act gives prosecutors tools to pursue conspiracy charges. Under POCA, they don't need to prove Stanfield pulled the trigger. They need to establish he was part of a criminal enterprise that committed murder. That's a lower bar, but still requires solid evidence of participation and intent. Court documents also mention a failed hit planned in November 2022, allegedly connected to stolen money worth 1 million rand. This suggests ongoing criminal activity even after Staggie's death, painting a picture of continuous violence rather than isolated incidents. Here's what puzzles everyone. Why would Ralph Stanfield want Rashied Staggie dead? The state mentions a gang war between Stanfield's 28's network and Staggie's hard livings. They cite territorial disputes over drug routes. But they haven't publicly explained why Stanfield would specifically target Staggie in December 2019. Gang members interviewed by media claim they don't know why Stanfield would order this hit. That's unusual. Gang killings typically have clear motivations: revenge, territory, discipline. But Staggie's murder lacks an obvious trigger. One theory focuses on generational change. Staggie represented the old guard, leading hard living since his twin's death in 1996. Stanfield embodied the new generation, taking over the 28's after 2004. Maybe eliminating Staggie was about cementing authority. In gang culture, killing an established boss sends a message. The timing might offer clues. December 2019 was reportedly a period of intense conflict between the 28's Firm Alliance and the Hard Living's 27's coalition. The murder of Bally Tips the night before suggests escalating violence. Perhaps Staggie's death was retaliation or preemption. There's also the economic angle. Court documents describe drug routes worth millions running through territories both gangs claimed. From Bishop Lavis through Mitchell's Plain to Kraaifontein, control meant profit. Maybe Staggie stood in the way of expansion, but investigators haven't revealed if they found specific evidence of motive. No intercepted communications discussing plans. No informants explaining the reasoning. The prosecution seems to rely on general gang war context rather than particular grievance. Some observers suggest the motive might be deliberately obscured. If Stanfield ordered the hit for someone else, or if multiple parties wanted Staggie dead, the real reason might never surface. In Cape Town's underworld, the obvious motive isn't always the true one. The funeral attendance offers another angle. Thousands gathered in Manenberg to mourn Staggie, demonstrating his continued influence despite his criminal past. That level of community support might have threatened younger rivals. In gang politics, popularity can be as dangerous as firepower. Now, the state's case against Stanfield seems strong, but alternative theories persist. The most intriguing comes from analysts at the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. They note historical patterns suggesting Staggie's murder might have been an inside job. Consider Staggie's history with betrayal. In 2011, his ex-wife was convicted of plotting his murder, though the attempt failed. That established precedent for family involvement in attempts on his life. Some investigators initially suspected this killing might follow that pattern. Then there's Staggie's son, Abdullah Boonzire. After his father's death, Abdullah didn't seek revenge against the 28s. Instead, he joined the Fancy Boys gang, switching allegiances entirely. That's unusual for a son whose father was murdered by rivals. Abdullah was later killed in gang violence in September 2022, taking any secrets with him. Hard Living's members immediately blamed Stanfield, but that speed raises questions. How did they know so quickly? Were they deflecting from internal conflicts? One expert noted that contemporary reports theorized the murder might have been a family job. The professional nature of the hit suggests multiple possible sponsors. Any rival gang leader could have hired the same shooters. Any corrupt business partner could have arranged the execution. Even government officials linked to drug trade might have had reasons. There's also the theory of convenient scapegoating. Stanfield makes an ideal suspect, powerful, controversial, already facing other charges. If the real orchestrator wanted to avoid suspicion, letting Stanfield take the blame would be strategic. But alternative theories don't equal reasonable doubt. The prosecution has specific evidence linking Stanfield to the alleged shooters. They have flight patterns suggesting guilt. They have financial trails requiring explanation. Defense attorneys must do more than suggest other possibilities. They must explain away the state's evidence. The list of enemies Staggie accumulated over decades offers numerous suspects. Beyond rival gangs, there were business disputes, territorial conflicts, personal vendettas. Any of these could have motivated murder. The challenge for investigators was determining which threat materialized that December morning. November 2025 approaches with the Western Cape High Court trial. 15 defendants, including Stanfield and his wife, face judgment, but the stakes extend beyond individual convictions. The witness problem looms large. Gang trials in Cape Town have a history of witness intimidation. Prosecutors acknowledge this risk, noting during bail hearings that defendants might tamper with witnesses or evidence. Will those who know the truth survive to testify? Will they dare speak if they do? If Stanfield walks free, what message does that send? Gang leaders might feel emboldened, knowing even high-profile murders can go unpunished if planned carefully enough. The anti-gang unit's credibility would suffer. Communities already skeptical of police effectiveness would lose more faith. But conviction raises other questions. Would removing Stanfield actually dismantle his network? History suggests gang structures adapt quickly to leadership changes. Stanfield's cousin Craig was killed in Valhalla Park shortly after Stanfield's arrest, indicating ongoing violence regardless of prosecutions. There's also the precedent factor. This case could establish new standards for prosecuting gang conspiracies without direct evidence. If circumstantial evidence proves sufficient here, it might enable similar cases. But if the prosecution fails, it might discourage pursuing complex conspiracy charges. The location carries its own weight. London Road has seen both Staggie brothers die violently, 23 years apart. The same street, the same violence, different decades. Rashied burned by vigilantes in 1996. Rashied shot by gangsters in 2019. That continuity speaks to cycles that transcend individual prosecutions. Perhaps the biggest stake is truth itself. Will the trial reveal what really happened that December morning? Or will it simply assign legal blame while deeper realities remain hidden? In Cape Town's gang landscape, court verdicts don't always align with street knowledge. The families watching this trial seek different things. Staggie's relatives want justice for their loss. Stanfield's supporters claim he's being framed. The communities affected by gang violence want safety. The justice system wants convictions. Not all these desires can be satisfied. The broader implications stretch beyond Cape Town. South Africa watches to see if its justice system can handle sophisticated organized crime. International observers monitor whether the country can protect witnesses and ensure fair trials. The outcome affects perceptions of South African rule of law. As November approaches, Cape Town holds its breath. This isn't just about one murder or one gang leader, it's about whether the system can penetrate the code of silence that protects gang operations. Whether digital age investigation techniques can overcome traditional gang insulation. whether anyone can truly be held accountable for orchestrated violence in the Cape Flats. The truth about who killed Rashied Staggie might emerge in that courtroom, or it might remain buried with the victims of Cape Town's gang wars, another secret in a city full of them. What's certain is that London Road will remember. The street where the Staggie twins both died violently carries those memories forward, waiting to see if justice or vengeance comes next.